What's going on YouTube, Facebook, and everybody else wherever this video gets shared to? Just a few minutes ago I had made a video saying that there was no rules in street racing, and in the comments section a few people brought up, well, what about, safety rules or somebody leaving early or something like that. Well, there's two things I've got to say about that. First off, safety's number one. So obviously you don't want people crossing lanes, okay? Now you can call that a rule if you like, but it's really kind of a no-brainer. Obviously nobody wants to wreck their car, nobody wants to die, nobody wants to kill somebody else. So that's really kind of a rule that kind of goes unsaid. Be safe if you're going to street race. Don't do it where there's a large public crowd around. Obviously you don't do it in front of a police station. Obviously you don't do it where there's a parade going on or something like that. You go to find a rural area so that way you can be left alone and try to do it as safe as possible. So as far as the safety rules go, you can call them rules if you want. I would just say that's kind of common sense. Now, the rule that people were asking about leaving early, it's real simple. It takes two cars to make a race. If two cars or two motorcycles or whatever, if they both leave the starting line, a chase is a race. So if one person leaves early, the other guy should sit there and let him leave early and just let him go and say, look, you left early, I didn't leave. If the other person doesn't leave the starting line, it's not a race. You can't have a race without two people racing. Okay, so one person going down the road is a solo pass. That's not a race. Now, obviously, every different area has different ways that they do things. Some people only race heads up. Obviously, you've seen the Street Outlaws on TV. They only race heads up. They typically have big tire cars. They only race 8th mile. Now, if you're street racing, you can go by whatever agreement that you want to make with somebody, and if you want to agree to some rules, that's fine, but there really are no official street racing rules. So it's really it's up to what you agree to. Some people race 8th mile, some people race quarter mile. A lot of racers race from a roll on the highway. Why, I don't know. It's kind of stupid, but whatever, it's what they do. So first off, it's what you agree to. Second off, don't agree to people's stupid stipulations. It's really kind of dumb. Especially from idiots like Bob Falfa or Neil and Bob or whatever his name is. But really what it boils down to is what you agreed to before the race. Obviously, the more you agree to, the more chance you have of an argument if something doesn't go perfectly. And so I personally don't agree too much. I agree to safety. So obviously if there's an issue about lanes or whatever, be a man. If you cross into the other guy's lane, man up and say, hey, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. Okay? We want to keep it safe. We don't want anybody dying. As far as leaving early goes, hey, if the other guy chased you, that's a race. That's street racing. If you want to have a red light situation where somebody leaves early and they get penalized for it, well, then race at a track. Now, fortunately, I have an event at Great Lakes Dragway called the Real Street Drags, which we street race, but we use the Christmas tree so that way if somebody leaves early, they get a red light, everybody sees it, it's there for all to see, and we also use the wind lights. Otherwise, it's street racing. Now, one thing that the Chicago area is famous for is spotting out car lengths. Now, that's something you don't see on TV. It's not something that they do in Oklahoma, at least that I know of. They certainly don't do it on the show. So remember, just because there's a TV show about street racing doesn't mean that they write the rules about street racing or anything else. Okay, it's just the way that they do it. Now, as far as prepping the road and all that goes, like I said, there's no rules in street racing. I personally want you to prep. I personally would love to see you do everything you need to do to try to win, so that way when I beat you, there's no excuses. Right? So all those chest thumpers and those armchair quarterbacks on like yellowbullet.com and the other frickin' message boards and stuff out there that all want to tell you how they think that things ought to go, don't listen to them. Okay? There are no rules. I'm not even making rules. There are no rules. Look it up on Google. There are no rules in street racing. If there was, there'd be a sanctioning body, there'd be a rule book, and everybody would agree to it. But guess what? That's what they do at the track. And I'm not bashing track racing. There's a lot of street racers out there that bash track racers. Well, guess what? The people that bash track racers are usually the guys that can't hang with the cars at the track. I, on the other hand, can do both. I can race on the street, and I am not afraid of anybody there, and I race at the track. That doesn't bother me. Prep track, non-prep track, nothing bothers me. I'm a racer. I'll race on any surface. It doesn't matter to me. A good surface? Fine. It's going to be good in both lanes. It's a level playing field. All right? People that talk about no prep being a level playing field so that way the faster car can't always win, well, you're right. The faster car is probably at a disadvantage. So the slower car is at an advantage, whereas on a prep track, the faster car may be tongue-twisted advantage. Anyways, my point is, don't agree to stupid stuff. And just because somebody's throwing it out there that they only race on the street and that they only race without prep and that's the way that it's done everywhere and that's the way you should do it, if they're telling you something like that, they're blowing smoke up your ass. Don't believe it. There are no rules in street racing, only to what you agree with. And the only thing that we really should be agreeing on is safety. And if two cars leave, or two motorcycles, or whatever's racing, if two people leave the starting line, a chase is a race. If one car sits and the other one goes, that's not a race because you can't have a race with only one car. So, I'm going to clarify what people were asking me in the comments after my first video. So there you go. I'm done. That's it. You guys can all argue about it after that. And still waiting for Chief to give me a call. Love to be able to go out there and run him. He said on his podcast he would race my jet car on the street. I want to do it. I'm ready. Chief, where are you? Now you got your steel-bodied car. How about your steel-bodied car versus my steel-bodied car? I'd love to do that too. Later.